About 10 years ago, somebody put an English concertina in my hands for the first time, and I didn't have a clue what to do with it. And this person, who was an experienced player, said, well, the C major scale is just going up the ladder. That's what he said. And so I'm going to try and show you what that means today, and we're going to use some sheet music as well. So what we can see on the screen here is a 2-octave scale of C major ascending, or going up if you like. Now you can see the notes. You can see 1 1 2 2 1 1 2 2. That's the fingering, and the upper lower I will explain in a moment. Right, so the first note is middle C. It's the note on the button that's nearest to me on this upper row of these two middle rows. Basically, in case you don't know, this top row is on the left hand side here. We have sharps, and we have sharps or flats on the bottom row, and it's the middle two rows we're going to use. And I'm going to call this row here, this goes from the back to the front if you like, I'm going to call that the upper row, and the row below it the lower row. And when I play any notes on the upper row, I'm going to use finger 1, and when I play notes on the lower row, I'm going to use finger 2. So the index finger and the middle finger, okay? And the same on the other side. Now the first note is C. It's middle C on that first ledger line there, this note here, you can see it here, and that note is on the upper row if you like, and it's the button nearest to me, so it's this one here. I'm going to start with my bellows just slightly open, and I'm going to pull all the way out as I'm playing this 2-octave scale. So there's my first note, C, on the left hand side. How do I know it's on the left hand side? Well, all notes on the lines are on the left, all notes in the spaces are on the right, so that makes life really easy. So there's our first note, middle C, upper row, finger 1, left hand side. Now the next note is D, and this note is in a space, so it's on the other side of the instrument, on the right hand side, and it's also finger 1, so it's the upper row, and it's not the nearest button to me, it's the next one. So I've got so far C on the left, D on the right. Now I'm going to go back to the left hand side now. The note is E. It's finger 2 on the lower row, so this row here, okay, and there's our E, and then I'm sure you're getting the idea. I'm just alternating side to side. So I'm now going to go to this note here, which is F on the right hand side. So far I'm just going to close my bellows up a bit. So far I've had C, D, E, F, okay, and that's our first bar of music, our first 4 notes in our 2-octave scale. Going to keep going. So in our second bar here we have G on the line on the left hand side, upper row, finger 1, over to the right hand side, still upper row, finger 1, and then to the left, lower row, so finger 2, B, and then I finish my first octave over on the right hand side with a C. So let's just examine that first octave. So we have upper, lower, upper, lower. So upper, lower, upper, lower. So on the next stave you just carry on into your next octave. D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So you've ended up on this note C, which is on the second ledger line above the stave, finger 2 on the lower row. So if I do that again, we have upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, low. So you're simply climbing up that ladder, but it's a ladder that goes from the back to the front, and that's a really good way of finding your notes. If I'm going to play a tune in the key of C, I often just centre myself just by playing that double octave scale, so I know where I am. Coming back, not quite so straightforward. Let's look at our next 2 octaves here. So I'm going to start off on the left hand side on that top C, and notice the first C was on the left hand side down here, the octave on that was on the right hand side, and the octave on that back on the left hand side, you see? So it swaps sides as it goes up in octaves. So we've just got to retrace our steps I'm not saying upper, lower this time because it doesn't work that way. So I'm going to have to say low, high, high, low, low, high, high, low, low, high, high, low, low, high, high. So low is the lower row and high is the upper row. I'm just going to retrace my steps. If I played everything on the pull, I'm going to be fairly extended, so I'm going to push as I do this. So here we go. And that brings us back to where we started on that low C. So it's a lovely way of finding your notes in the key of C major very, very quickly and getting fluent at that scale up and down. And I hope you'll find that useful. While we're talking about scales, let's look at the scale of G major. Now this isn't as straightforward, unfortunately, because in G major we have F sharp, so all Fs are raised to F sharp, so we don't play F, we play F sharp instead. And we're starting a bit lower with this G here, which is in the space underneath the second ledger line. So straight away you know we're going to start on the right hand side, because all notes in spaces on the treble clef are on the right hand side, and all notes on lines are on the left hand side. And we're actually on this note here, which is the nearest button to me, and it's on the upper row. We know that because it's finger 1, so there is that low G note. Then I'm going to go over to the left hand side because I'm on a line, finger 2, and this is the lowest note on this side, and the note is A on the second ledger line. Then I come back to the right hand side and it's finger 2, so it's the lower row, and it's the note B. And then we're in familiar territory if we know our C major scale, because we've then got C, okay, and then to the right hand side we've got D, and then to the left hand side we've got E. Now when we want this next note here, which is F sharp, okay, so F is here, we don't want F, we want F sharp, so there's F. F sharp is the button just directly below that. On this Jackie instrument I've only got 3 sharps. If you've got a more expensive instrument or a vintage instrument, you'll have more notes on this lower, very low row or very high row. I've only got 3 here, and it's the one in the middle, and it's finger 3 there, so that's F sharp. So I go from E on the left hand side, finger 2, to F sharp on the right hand side, finger 3, and I finish my octave back on the left hand side with the note G, finger 1. So I'm just going to play that first octave. So starting down here, I'm going to play that first octave starting on the right hand side with the low G. I'm going to be swapping sides, alternating sides, just as I did before, but watch out for that F sharp on that very bottom row with finger 3. So those big numbers underneath the notes are the fingers for the purposes of this exercise. So here we go. So you've got your typical do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but going from a G to a G rather than a C to a C, and to make that sound right we had to raise our F to F sharp. Let's keep going onto our second stave. So over onto the right hand side we've got A, okay, so it's finger 1. And then on the left hand side we've got B, finger 2, so it's the lower row. All finger 2 notes are lower row, all finger 1 notes are upper row, and any F sharps are that very bottom row. So we've got to go over to the right hand side now for the C, back to the left hand side for D, finger 1, right hand side for E, okay, so finger 1. Now we've got another F sharp, but this time it's on the left hand side. Okay, now it's going to be on that bottom row again. There is an F note, and here is an F sharp. So we've got F sharp, finger 3, and this time out of these 3 buttons on this very low row, the lowest row, it's the one furthest away from you, the player. There it is, F sharp, and you finish over here on the right hand side with the G. So let's play that second octave. Well, let's go from the G at the end of stave 1, and we'll play from G to G, but the second octave. So starting on the left hand side. So notice that F sharp there, finger 3, and you ended on that top G, finger 2, on the lower of the 2 middle rows. So let's do that all on the pull. Let's play the whole 2-octave scale, starting on the G on the right hand side, finger 1. And you can see I did that all on the pull. I'm pretty much fully extended there, but I managed it. So let's reverse, let's go down now. We're going to start on this G. We're going to be pushing now, pushing the bellows towards the closed position. So we've got G on the right hand side, F sharp on the left, E on the right, D on the left, C on the right, B on the left, A on the right, G on the left, F sharp on the right, E on the left, D on the right, C on the left, B on the right, A on the left, and then we end with G on the right. So let's play that descending scale now for you. So obviously that one's harder because we've got those sharp notes to consider on that lowest row on both sides. And on the right hand side, the F sharp is the one in the middle, this one here. And on the left hand side, it's the one furthest away from you. And it's the octave. You can hear they're an octave apart there. I'm not much of a one for scales and exercises, but I think on the English concertina they are pretty useful, and there'll be a lot of people out there that would disagree with that statement. But if you practice those 2 scales, if you're a beginner and become fluent on them, it won't be a bad thing at all. Anyway, I hope you found that useful, and you'll see me in my next video. Thanks for watching.